So there's only 3,000 of us, or slightly less, and I like it. It feels more personal and small. Plus one of my lights burn out, so it's a little darker in here. It's mood lighting. Today I'd like to talk about being a creative professional and some of the advice that I wish that I had gotten when I was a bit younger. And maybe it will apply to you. The first piece of advice is pretty simple. It's just, if you want to be something, start being it. If you want to be a writer, you should be writing. Not tomorrow, but today. If you want to be an artist, you should be drawing and painting. Same thing, not tomorrow, today. If you want to be a stand-up comic, write jokes and figure out somewhere to stand up and tell them. And this has been on my mind lately because I've been interviewing people for a job here as a video producer, and quite a few of them walk in the door and they say, I want to be a director or a cinematographer or an editor or things like that. And when I ask them to show me work, they show me things from school or from another job. But I'm more interested in what they did last weekend. And this is especially true when you're beginning something. If you're not doing that thing, if you want to be a writer and you're not writing, you should probably ask yourself why you aren't. Because that's what writers do. They write. And if you want to be a writer, you better enjoy writing. Of course, there's a problem with this, and that is, as you're probably aware of, when you sit down to do the thing that you want to do, for example, write if you want to be a writer, one of the first things that might happen is you feel like vomiting, or at least that the insides of you are trying to escape in every possible direction, and the seat that you're in gets hot. I wish I could say that that feeling goes away completely after a while, but I'm not sure that it does. But you do become a little bit more tolerant of it and can figure out how to fight against it better. One thing that helps me is to realize that I have a rhythm in a way. There's times when I can take on big, unsolvable tasks, open-ended questions, and then there's times that I can't. And at those times I have to find small, little solvable problems to work on, bounded, little tiny problems. Another thing that helps me is to realize that when I'm in the beginning of learning something, and the beginning can last a couple of years, by the way, not just a couple of weeks or months, in that time, you don't really have to worry about finding your own voice. In fact, that kind of gets in the way. You can copy people. Sometimes that comes naturally when you just read someone, for example. You just start using their voice. Try reading Borges, for example, and not writing like him for the next 2 days. And this brings up another point, which is you should consume a lot of things that you like. This is something that's particularly hard for me because the second that I start doing stuff, I become insanely jealous of other people's work. And I think it's going to perturb me or send me off in a different direction or start to make me adopt someone else's style. But the truth is, you organically have your own style that's going to come out even when you copy other people, especially in the beginning. And the end result is that you get this amazing amalgam of all the people that you respect, and it comes out in amazing ways. To think otherwise, to think that you're somehow pure and your voice is independent of all the others, is probably a little grandiose. The next part of this, which gives me lots of anxiety, and might give you quite a bit as well, is you should get your work in front of other people. And the internet makes that a lot easier than it used to be, and actually a bit safer. Putting your work out on bulletin boards or message boards or galleries and things like that allows you to have your work critiqued without having to directly confront people. Hell, you can block them if you don't like what they say. That's a good start, but I think that the real challenge is getting your work in front of people who you really respect, have a lot of responsibility towards, and seeing what they say. The art of taking criticism is a craft in and of itself, and it can take a whole lifetime to learn. And one of the things you should know is that when you get a criticism, you don't have to take all of it or none of it. You get to piece it apart and take the parts which you think are valuable and throw away the parts that you think aren't really worth it, or a reflection of someone's bad day or some weird prejudgment. You'll notice in the beginning that I didn't say if you want to be a surgeon, do surgery. And that would be a little ridiculous. And there are crafts that require professional accreditation or access to crazy equipment and all sorts of things, and those disciplines have different paths. Usually you go to a program and you do well and get good grades and then move on to the next level, and that process itself weeds people out. But at the end of the process, if you've made it through, there are jobs available to you. That is unfortunately not the case with the creative lifestyle. And you have to be a little bit careful because education is a business, and there are a lot of courses out there that kind of pretend that you can just jump through the right kinds of hoops or get the right kinds of degrees and then come out and be secure. But you can't. It's been helpful for me to realize that there's a difference between the craft of the creative work that you do and the craft of making money off of that creative work. I'm not completely sure why, but knowing that there are two different crafts at play there helps me not be as jaded when I see something that's popular or successful that I don't think is very good. It's just different. And that kind of leads into the next point, which is it's good to struggle to figure out when you do work, what part of the work satisfies you directly, internally, and what part of the work gives you satisfaction because other people praise it, which is fine. And it's good to have a little bit of both, or at least not let one of the two of them dominate too much. And they can be crutches for each other. You can do stuff that you're slightly unsure about, but gets a lot of attention and praise, and that can make you feel good. Or you can do something that a lot of people don't like, but you're secretly just proud of. And that's great too. So if you want to do something, you should do it. It's okay to take breaks or take some time off once in a while, but make it a choice. Choose to do that. Don't do it because you're scared or lazy or think there's some other path to it. If you want to write, write.